Hey, ladies, welcome back to another episode of Becoming Secure. This is your host, Emily, dating and relationship coach, specializing in all things attachment. And today we are continuing the series on situationships. So if you are in one, if you have been in one in the past and you still are struggling to maybe make sense of it, maybe it drove you a little bit crazy and just you want to understand more about how you ended up in that situationship or why it was so hard to get over. Or if you are done with your situationship and you're just trying to process and actually move on, let go, and be emotionally available for someone new who is ready for commitment, then this episode is for you. We are talking about how to get over your situationship for good. We're talking about what really makes it hard to let go of that person and what are some of the things that need to shift in order for that to happen. And if you haven't listened to any of the other episodes in this series, definitely check them out. They're the ones just before this. And definitely check out maybe the one like why situationships are such a mind F if you're trying to wrap your head around that. And so I'm going to give you a few steps that I want you to do in order to get over this guy. So let's dive right in. Now, I'm not talking about this because, just it's all theoretical. I have been in this situation before. I was in a year and a half long situationship with a guy who was my best friend. I actually just made an Instagram post about this that I posted this morning. So if you want to go check that out, look at a little bit about my story. And yeah, it was really, really challenging getting over it. I had to totally cut contact with him for like 9 or 10 months, I think. And then we actually were able to be friends at one point, but it was like a new relationship at that point. We really had to have like a very different friendship. And I think one thing that is maybe a little bit different about our situation is that it was like very much an emotional relationship, but physical boundaries weren't really crossed. And so I think that for the most part, and so I think that made it easier to actually have a relationship after the fact. I mean, if we had been like sleeping together or anything like that, I don't know that we would have been able to be friends, but that, thank goodness, is not something that was part of our situationship. So, yeah, I totally get it. I have been there and I know how hard it can be to find closure and to like make sense of why this happened. I know it's easy to really get stuck in your head of all the like what ifs or trying to psychoanalyze like his behavior. Like, why is he doing this? That's confusing. Why is he doing that? But that's really the wrong focus. So, the first thing that I recommend doing, and I've coached a lot of clients simply, I think, from talking about my own story with situationships, I've coached a lot of clients who were trying to end their situationship or get over their situationship. And so, one of the first things that I always have them do, if they haven't done this already, sometimes they have, sometimes they haven't, is have the hard conversation. Get the clarity you need because that allows you to stop the fantasizing and come back to reality. And it's not fun, like, especially if you kind of know that person's probably going to reject you, you like can tell what the answer is going to be, or you have a strong feeling. But sometimes we really need that because it puts a stop to all the fantasizing. It leaves no room for gray area, right? If you're like, well, he said this, but maybe he really means that. Maybe it's actually this. If you have the conversation and you can get that firm no, like I'm just not looking for a relationship, or I don't see myself like having a relationship with you or this turning into a relationship, that allows you to kind of come down from the high or from the fantasizing. So that's one of the first things that I always recommend. Get that clarity, and then you can deal with the emotions after that. But it helps bring you back to reality. Now, one of the next things that I always recommend, or that we have to do essentially is taking the connection off the pedestal. Okay, we really need to stop telling ourselves that this person is so amazing or this connection is so amazing. We don't need to pedestal the person who can't fully choose you because he's really not that special. The connection just isn't that special. And I guarantee you that if he were actually available, you wouldn't be feeling like the connection is so amazing. You wouldn't have such intense feelings. And I get it. You're like, but Emily, I really do have an amazing connection with this guy. I'm telling you, I was there. I so understand that feeling, but it's really based a lot in fantasy and it's more about what this person represents. I know that with my situationship, I mean, we were best friends. We were besties. We were together all the time, constantly. We had like the same values, the same views, the same religion. Our passions and our future goals were all aligned. We like made all these, like we would dream of all these things we wanted to do together. But at the end of the day, that didn't matter. That didn't change the fact that we didn't want the same thing, or he didn't want the same thing that I wanted, or he didn't want it with me. And that's okay. But you need to recognize that your attachment to him and how special you feel the connection is not really about you guys clicking on all these levels. It's not really about the connection being that amazing. It's really a sign that he is triggering something deeper for you. It's a sign that he represents something else on a deeper level, which is that he's triggering these old wounds for you, these old attachment wounds. Maybe that's not feeling good enough. Maybe it's feeling like you're too much. Maybe it's feeling like you're not worth being chosen, or you're not special, or you're unwanted. It could be all these different things. I know a big one for me was feeling like I was unwanted as a person. And I think a piece of that was also wanting to know that I was special. And then that did make me worth wanting in some way. And when I worked with my first coach, I definitely had to do some work around that core wound, where my inner child just believed that she was unwanted because of some different experiences that I went through when I was a child. And so we need to get curious about what is this representing for you on a deeper level? What is he bringing up? Because if you're honest with yourself, when you think about closing the door with him on this, with him on, or if you think about losing him, how do you feel? Do you feel like this intense urge to prevent that, intense urge to prove yourself or convince him to choose you? Do you feel like you just need to try harder? Is there a feeling of being helpless, like you can't stop what's happening, but at the same time, you refuse to let it happen or to accept the reality? If so, if you feel any of these intense emotions or like these really intense thoughts, even, all of that is a sign that this is an old wound being triggered. And so it's not really about him. He is just the mirror holding up what, or yeah, the mirror being held up and revealing something that was already inside of you to begin with. He's triggering what was already there. And so this is an opportunity for you to look deeper. If it's not about him, then what is this really bringing up for me on a deeper level? So that's a good place to start. What is this actually triggering for me? And maybe you do recognize that you have some wounds or some fears around not being fully chosen, or not feeling wanted. Could be a lot of different things. And in the episode about why situationships can be such a mind F, I do talk about some of the different core wounds that might play a role in this. So definitely check that episode out too. Now, the second part of taking this connection off the pedestal is reminding yourself that all of the things aren't good about this situation. Like, rather than focusing on everything that's amazing, you need to also start looking at the things that were not so good, the things that made you uncomfortable or insecure or confused. With my situationship, he was not a terrible person. There were a lot of great things about him. And I also had to really look for the ways that okay, he's not a perfect human. And there's this balance between you don't have to make that person the enemy or demonize them, but you really need to see both of your own humanity in this, right? Like there were times where I wanted to make him the bad guy because he wasn't choosing me, but he was acting like he wanted a relationship and he would tell me he loved me. And yeah, it was all our friends were like, are you guys dating? Or even strangers would be like, oh, like you guys are boyfriend and girlfriend. And so that was both validating because I was like, see, I'm not crazy. Like other people see it too. And also, it was frustrating and hard because I was like, why does everyone else see what he doesn't see? Like, what what is up with you? And the craziest thing that did happen, I'm going off on a little bit of a story here, but the craziest thing that did happen is, situationship ended. We took some time apart, and then we became friends again with a lot of boundaries that I had to be the one enforcing. That I had to really be the one behind. Okay, but that actually goes back to I'm all over the place. That actually goes back to my main point of I had to recognize that he had a major boundary issue. I did too, but I was like, if he actually genuinely does not want a relationship with me, he is allowing a lot of things to happen and contributing to this dynamic by not having any boundaries. And it's because he's getting validation from that. Could be other things, could be like fears of if I set a boundary, then I'll lose this friendship, but either way, like he definitely had his own things that he needed to work on. And that helped me see that he was not this like perfect person that I had put up on a pedestal in my mind. Okay, so now going back to that story, we started being friends again, and he was actually dating someone during this time. And he and I were like super respectful. We really didn't hang out one on one alone, but we were songwriters. So sometimes we would have co writes with like a third person. And if we did hang out one on one, it was like out in a public place. So I really tried to be very respectful and have like a whole new approach to boundaries on the situation. He and that girlfriend, after hanging out, the three of us, a few times, she actually broke up with him because she felt like he and I had more of a connection than they did. And I think that this was something she'd been feeling for a while, not just like about me and him, but that maybe their connection wasn't as strong as it probably needed to be. And they'd been together for like a year and a half at that point. But when I tell you, like, that was such a validating experience to know that, okay, like she sees it too, but I didn't need that to move on. Sometimes we get those things and they're just like little cherries on top. Like, okay, I wasn't crazy, but I didn't need that at that point because I really had done the inner work to validate my own experience and to give myself closure that he never did give me. He never did. He was never able to see what I saw. He was never able to understand like, hey, if you actually don't have feelings for someone, you shouldn't do these things. You should have these boundaries. His response was always like, well, this is just how I am, like with friends. Like I'm just this way with friends. This isn't anything like romantic. And it was really like eye-opening recognizing that he didn't have the emotional maturity to recognize that no, you can't just throw all your boundaries out the window and be like, yeah, this is just friendship. So you need to do that with your guy. You need to look at the ways that he actually is human and flawed. And if you're telling yourself the story that's like, oh, we have such an incredible connection, we connect on so many levels, and there is no one else I felt this way with before. And things would be amazing if he would just realize his feelings and just commit. If you're telling yourself that story, you are adding to your own suffering because that's not actually the truth. That is fantasy. That is looking at things through this rose-colored glass, through these rose-colored glasses, and it's really hinging your happiness on someone else choosing you. It's outsourcing your power, outsourcing your happiness, your sense of okayness. And so when we look at things in a more balanced way, that's more like, hey, there's this person right in front of me who acts like he wants a relationship. We do have maybe some things we connect on, but also he can't choose me and he's acting like he wants to, but then not doing that. And he's giving me mixed signals. And that makes me feel insecure. That makes me feel anxious. That makes me feel uneasy. And honestly, this is kind of unattractive, actually. It's not that hard to be direct. It's not that hard to work on your own fears and actually be available for a relationship. It's not that hard to set boundaries. And as you work on these skills yourself too, and you realize, oh, actually, like it isn't that hard to set boundaries because look, I'm doing it in all these areas in my life. Or where you start to be more able to choose from your desires and choose from a more grounded place rather than always running from fears or chasing after people in hopes of being chosen. As you start doing those things less and less, your standards go up because you're like, you know what? I'm able to do that. Like, I believe in other people to do that too. I don't need to wait around for someone who's deep in the struggle, who can't overcome those things and just hope and sort of see them in this like very fragile kind of way where it's like, well, I don't know if he's going to be able to get over these things and it's so hard for him and I just want to help him grow and help him overcome these things. You're not really seeing him as a capable adult. You're kind of infantilizing him in these situations. Like he is capable. Whether he chooses to do that or not is up to him, but everyone is capable of choosing, to move in a healthier direction, of choosing to work on things and try to overcome their different inner blocks. And it's not your responsibility to, you know, stick around trying to convince them to do that or trying to convince them that you're worth working on themselves for. So, what I want you to do is recognize why this person is actually not the perfect connection for you. And part of that is that the person who's perfect for you would choose you. At the end of the day, like that is what it is. There's not all this fight and struggle that's supposed to be part of relationships. The like getting together is not what's supposed to be the struggle. Life throws enough difficulties at you when you're together. You should be a team working through those things together, not having to wrestle so much to even get to a point of commitment. So, really challenge yourself here to see what you don't want to. And don't just fall back into the same story about how perfect you'd be together if he would just commit, because that's not really the truth. It's just not. That's the fantasy, that's the delusion talking. And as soon as you accept that and allow yourself to start exploring new perspectives, the easier it will be to let go and get over this person. So, what are the ways that you see that he does still have some things to work on? Ways that you do see his humanity, ways that maybe you guys aren't the best fit for each other. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't envision myself with someone who's confusing and back and forth and gives me all these mixed signals. And so when I see that someone is acting that way, in dating, I'm like, oh, okay, that's not my person. So starting to recognize that those are good enough reasons to not pursue things, that those are good enough reasons to say, oh, we actually don't have a good connection here, rather than focusing on all the other things that you do have in common and kind of ignoring the ways that he's unavailable. Now, all these things are a great starting place, right? Thinking about having that conversation and getting that clarity to bring you back to reality. Um, Trying to take the connection off a pedestal, right? Showing yourself all the ways he's human and it's not that special of a connection. And number three, recognizing how he actually is triggering a deeper wound for you, right? The intensity that you feel for him is more about these wounds, these triggers that he's bringing up. So these are a great place to start. But even if you logically understand them, even if you can figure out the answer, you still have to emotionally process these things, which is where a lot of people get stuck. They're like, oh, yeah, like I keep thinking about this guy, but I know that it's just because like he didn't choose me. I know that that's all it is. Okay, that is not the end point. That is like step one. And so a lot of people get stuck here in this self-awareness phase. But then if you're still struggling and overthinking, that's a sign that you're not actually processing this emotionally. If you're overthinking, you are under feeling. And the letting go is in the feeling part, the understanding, and then the feeling, and then the emotional processing, not using the self awareness to then keep analyzing the situation. That's not how it works. And that's not what actually moves you forward. And that's also one of the reasons that like talk therapy can be so unhelpful. If you're not feeling what you experienced, then you're not actually processing through it. And you're going on this endless journey of psychoanalyzing yourself in all your relationships, but you still feel the same. That's not the goal. That's not the point where healing actually happens. And this is actually one of the reasons that my new program, Unsituationshipable, focuses on clearing the stuck emotions. We have different emotional processing practices, different exercises that I'll be guiding you guys through starting in just the first week. So, this is one of the first things that we will help you with so that you can stop ruminating. You can actually feel what is deep under the overthinking. And that is going to allow you to actually move through this, to stop feeling so stuck in your head, overthinking, questioning everything. No, when you actually start feeling, you can move into that acceptance point. And so we have really, really helpful, beautiful practices that we do as part of this program and things that I've used to help other clients move through their situationships. And I was just messaging not too long ago with one client who similar situation came to me in a situationship, and it had been a long time. And she was like, I just know I need to get out of this, but I'm stuck. And now she's in a beautiful relationship, you guys. She's like, I know for sure I'm going to marry this man. You know, their parents have met. They're moving in together, I think in a few months. And she was like, he's just like all the green flags. And anytime she feels anxious or is like overthinking things, it's like he can tell and he'll just be like, hey, like, are you okay? Like, do you want to talk about things? And she's like, it's just so helpful for my anxiety. And she's just never felt this like safe and seen with someone. And so that is totally possible for you too. And that's what happens. That's the kind of relationships that are available for you when you do this work and you stop getting stuck in these loops of and these cycles of choosing the people who can't choose you back. And so this is one of the things that we help you with in Unsituationshipable, and we help you heal those core wounds so that you can break the cycle of attracting unavailable people and situationships. And then we also help you date in a way that is more secure, where you don't take rejection so personally. You don't try to convince the unavailable person to become available, and instead you can take it as neutral information about whether or not you're a fit. You'll learn to vet for whether this is the type of person who will waste your time or whether this is someone who's truly commitment ready. And you'll learn how to have the hard conversations and what boundaries to set so that you can ensure you are unsituationshipable for good and never have to experience a situationship ever again. So this is a 5-week group program. It's going to be so much fun with just a handful of other women who are going through the same thing you are so that you guys can all get the individualized attention. And we start late April. The investment is only $299. So you can go ahead and register and also read more information via the link in the show notes. You can also DM me on Instagram if you have any questions. And I'm so looking forward to this. The group programs like this are always my favorite. The women just have such incredible breakthroughs, and getting to do this with other women in that community, I can't even put into words like how healing that is, just knowing that you're not alone and being able to lift each other up and, you know, empathize with each other, relate to each other, all those things. It's just like the cherry on top of it all. So I can't wait to see those of you inside and get started. And for those of you listening, I will catch you on the next episode. And until then, I'm wishing you lots of luck and love on your journey towards becoming more secure.